Hi, welcome. My name is Novic from Novi Sad, Europe, third big rock from the sun. In this video I will be discussing and explaining brake squeal. That's the annoying sound that sometimes some bicycle brakes make. Maybe I caught that on microphone, I hope. So here we have a perfect candidate. This is my commuter bicycle and it has a squeaking front brake. So generally the advice for eliminating brake squeaking and squealing is to make sure that it is all. I put here is what I will be covering today. Bullet points. So squeal, degrease in the line, disc and rim brake pad bedding in, toe in mid, and explain that. Then see how tire pressure and brake pad compound affect, and see about greasing calipers. That's an interesting phenomena. So let's roll. This video, like most of my videos, will have a table of contents so that you can skip to the parts of interest, and that's in the video's description. If you're watching this on YouTube, it will also be visible on the timeline, so you can easily find reference like an encyclopedia. I will also put relevant links to my articles and videos that explain things in more detail in the video's description, so that you can read more and learn more if you wish for the parts that are of interest to you and applicable to your case. So let's now begin. This first section is introduction, and now let's talk about first what squeal is. Squeal is the sound that we can hear. That's when we call it squeal, and it is basically a sort of a vibration that happens because brake pads first stick to the braking disc or to the wheel rim when we have rim brakes, and then they flex a bit and then they move back, and that happens very quickly, and sometimes that's within the frequency that we can hear, and then it's annoying. When it's outside of that scope, then you may only see some dogs barking at you or nobody being able to hear it and be bothered with it. So that's what we are aiming for, but there is always some amount of vibrations very often, especially with rim brakes that have softer compound to not completely wear out the rims. So there is also some flex in the brake calipers and in all that system, and all that affects also different rigidities of different components, from the pad material to the brake area disc or rim material, and even fork stiffness and other aspects can make that resonating frequency be higher or lower, so that sometimes you will be able to hear it like a very loud annoying noise, sometimes just slightly, sometimes not. Even temperature and moisture in the air or on the braking areas can affect that, and so generally our goal is to try to get as far away from that squeaky area resonance as we can, and to make sure that we are operating within that that we don't hear, so it doesn't bother us and it's not unpleasant. Now let us move. The first thing to do is to make sure that it is all degreased. So for disc brakes, brake discs, rotors, whatever you call them, and pads, and also for rim brakes, to make sure that rims and pads are degreased. You can use that 90+% alcohol from supermarkets and some clean microfiber cloth or just old cotton cloth that's not greasy, and just give it a good rub to degrease it. Or you can use a brake cleaner spray that is right behind the camera. Where else? So this is go big or go home. This is what I got. Brake cleaner. If it says brake cleaner, it's usually good. I haven't seen any models that are problematic. Just be aware to not spray it much on rubber or paint. Sometimes it may dull it or damage it. Otherwise it cleans, evaporates quickly, just like alcohol. So those are your options for that. Let's see what else we have. Now let's talk about brake pad bedding in. For disc brakes, the material of the pads and needs to be transferred to the disc for them to be effective and to not squeal and to brake well. So for disc brake bedding in, you want to be riding in a place where it is safe, so no heavy traffic things that will how do I say, surprise you. Try to find some safe, quiet area and get up to some speed that you're comfortable with, and try to hold your brakes for about, well, you slowly count to 3 or 5, one at a time. Just slightly to feel them dragging, just trying to slow you down but not really braking. That will make sure that they are a bit warmed up. So do that for the front and for the rear. 1, 2, 3. That's the speed, and you can do that for 3 to 5 seconds. No more. You don't want to overheat and glaze your brake pads. So you do that once for each brake, just to give them some warming up. Then you will get up to speed that you are comfortable with, and try to brake hard, but not harder than you are again comfortable with, that you are safe, that you're in control, and that you are certain that you're not blocking the wheel. That is the crucial part. When you are bedding in disc brake pads, you must not lock in the wheel. You want just to have some strong braking that will transfer the material from the brake pad to the disc and bed them in those micro irregularities to make sure that they are matched. If the disc has some sort of things protruding that are on micro level, you want to shape the pads to align with it perfectly, to not be mismatched and to have worse traction. So that's important. That's how you do that, by braking hard but without letting the wheel block or without stopping. So when you're near stopping, you release the brake and then get up to speed again, and then do another brake, and do that 3 to 5 times for each brake. The rear brake is problematic, that if you ride out of saddle, you will easily lock up the rear wheel because it has no weight on it. So make sure that you're weighing the saddle and you're not braking too hard to not block the rear wheel. What happens if you block the wheels? Well, when the pads are transferring that material to the disc, if you let it completely stop the disc, so this is not moving, but it gets stopped, the pad will sort of dig into it, and that will create an effect that your disc feel like they are a bit braking like jadder, like on and off, slight. You will feel that slight pulsing of the brakes, sort of. So be careful not to do that when you're bedding in your brakes, and when you do that about 5 times for each brake, you're generally okay. You can then go on riding, and you will feel your brakes get stronger and stronger bite as you do 3rd and 4th and 5th time of that, if they were not very good from the start. So that's another important thing, to bed in the disc brakes. For bedding in the rim brake pads, it is best to ride through puddles when it's raining, because they will have some road debris that will act like fine sandpaper, so that it wears something of the rim and something from the pads, and so that it beds them in. Of course, you start with aligned parallel pads to the rim. That goes also for the disc brakes. You need to make sure that the calipers and pads are aligned, degreased and aligned, so if they're at an angle, braking will not be very good. I didn't stress that enough, but so that's the starting point. Then when you bed in the rim brake pads, what happens is, let me take a pad as an example. So here we have a new pad. Let's show it. So let's see this. As the rim is moving forward and you press on the rim brake, it is mounted here on the brake caliper. So brake caliper is holding it. It is not 100% rigid. So as you're pressing it in and it's getting friction on the rim, and the wheel is moving forward, that friction will cause this rear end to a bit twist. You will get that sort of micro twist because of the friction. It's trying hard to move it, and this is not letting it move right away, but it can flex a bit, so you get a bit of this effect, and the rear end will wear faster than this front end. And so after you've been braking and bedding in your brakes properly, you will get a sort of a profile that is a bit more worn to the rear side. and a bit less worn in the front, and when you look at it against the rim, that will look like it is at a bit of an angle. And that is probably the origin of the myth that when you install new pads you should make them like that, toe them in, as they say. That is nonsense, and you shouldn't. You should just make sure they are parallel. Some manufacturers, even like here Jaguar, made some adapters that are designed with different thickness so that you can put them against the rim and then align your pads, and when you tighten this, because of these cones, it lets it be a bit of an angle so that they are towed in right from the start. And that is nonsense, because I will refer to another video I made where I explained basic principles of brakes and the problems of lack of rigidity or with flex. So when you have a brake pad towed in from the start, you are needlessly losing the brake arm, brake lever travel to get the pad to align and then start braking. And it does not solve the problem of squealing. Squealing is solved by making sure that they are aligned, bedded in, so you get a bit of a micro toe in, if you like, but only when they are severely worn, ready to be replaced, you will see that noticeable. So that's no need to do that from the start. You need to make sure that it's parallel, that it's degreased, and high quality components that don't flex too much, starting from brake levers to calipers and so on. And here we have a perfect example. These brakes are towed in. You can see that. I will take a light to put some. From this side it's mostly visible, I hope. So you can see that the front part of the pad reaches first, and only then the rear part. Let's try to see the other side if it's more visible, more clearly visible. So these brakes are towed in, so you can see the rear part reaches and touches only after I exert some pressure, but they are still squealing. So I can try to mix different pad materials. That helps, of course, degreasing and realigning them to be parallel, and then braking in some rain puddles, or even squirting some. It's not a bad idea, even though it sounds crazy, to put some dishwasher liquid a bit on the rims, do a bit of a braking, and then make sure that it's thoroughly rinsed with water, and when they are still wet, even spraying from water bottle or whatever, to do a few hard brakes, and then that will make sure that it's all degreased and that it's all bedded in and a bit worn for a start. But if that doesn't help, you need to look for rigid brake arms, for good holder for brake pads, good quality brake pad material. Make sure that the rim is properly secured and the wheel is true and everything is good. But sometimes even that doesn't help, and you need to make sure that calipers are rigid or that they are not too flimsy. In this case, that is the problem. These are too worn, too damaged, and so these brakes are squealing very badly. I hope you can catch it on camera. So even when I'm riding, this by putting this back and forth, you can always simulate and make many brakes squeal, but in this case it's excessive even when I'm riding normally. So one of the ways to solve that would be to get these calipers out and put some lube on them and see if that might help. So that would be to grease them, to grease the pivots. That's something that generally you should do when you are servicing, overhauling brakes and everything. I'm releasing the tension on the spring so to let myself work a bit easier. Okay. So again, not cleaning it thoroughly. That's not the point here. I might make a separate video about how to mount, how to adjust V-brakes and other types of brakes, but this here is just the point. I also have videos explaining how to eliminate disc brake rub and disc brake squealing, and this video is related to rim brakes. This might not help. Maybe the problem is just because the calipers are simply too worn, too much plane, not rigid enough. They weren't super great from the start. I got these used in a pretty bad condition, and so, but we will see. We will see how it fares. So, tightening this. And okay, let's see if we are in luck. No change. Nothing noticeable. Nothing to write home about, as the Americans say. But still far from ideal. So the next thing to do for me would be to make sure that these are not towed in. I want to have them aligned right centered. But before we do that, I almost forgot. So okay, let's see if I now broke the experiment. No, still some squeal, didn't align the other one. Let's see how tire pressure can affect the resonant frequency. If we drop the tire pressure, let's see if it will cause some friction. I will take it outside to do a normal proper brake, and so that you can hear the sound. The microphone is on my body. So okay, it seems I was too quick, and the things I did stopped it. It's just light. It seems that I was too hasty that I forgot to demonstrate how tire pressure, when I release it a bit, stops the squealing, because that also affects how rim behaves and how it resonates. So these tires are now softer, but they're not super deflated, but the pressure, at least in my experience, so I've just botched my own experiment idea. It was a very hectic day, I forgot it, very sorry. So yeah, you'll have to take my word for it that tire pressure also plays a part. So not the most successful demonstration. Too many stuff left for just taking my word for it. And fortunately I'm not selling anything. Okay, so that's for that part. And now let's just, for demonstrational purposes, remove the toe in to make sure that pads are really parallel to the rim. So I want to have them not be towed in, so they are now more or less parallel. Now let's make sure that the other one is also in the same situation, in the same position. So let's see now how they behave. Okay, when I take it outside to brake, the irony would be to get some brake squeal now. Of course, that's because we are recording. That's what's normally going to happen. Let's try it now. Yes, now to have the irony back, now we do have some squealing return, and that's probably because these need to be a bit bedded into this new position, and let's confirm it. Then I will try to inflate the tire. Yes, now we definitely have squealing. Okay. That's okay. Now I will try to inflate the tire back to the optimal pressure and see if we will get louder squealing, to at least demonstrate that, or if it will disappear. That will also show us that tire pressure does affect the resonating frequency. So let's give this a go. Let's see now. Another try. Okay. Okay, we have some squeal again, maybe even louder for higher pressure. That's what I've observed with this combination of brake pads and rim. And now what I can do is to try the recipe with some brake cleaner, to try to ram them in, and then to use some water and see how we fare with that. Let's try now. Okay, so we've got no squealing. That's good. Okay, so that seems to have helped, but I am pretty certain, based on my experience without recording it, that placing the pads to be parallel, not towing them in, and putting some grease on the caliper pivots, both made a difference. In this particular case with these problems, that is like the most complicated scenario that I have generally encountered. So that's one way of fixing it, and it works. Of course, I hope I explained clearly enough the basic concept, the ideas, and you can try this for yourself on a test bicycle, or in some situation when you have the chance. You needn't take my word for it, but this is the basic concept and what works well. And I am not sure if many mechanics share the opinion and have similar experience that towing in of pads is a waste of brake lever travel and it makes no sense, but that has been my conclusion based on all of my theoretical knowledge and practical experience with various situations and terrains and combinations over the past decades. This tool, however, for aligning brake pads is still not a too bad idea. Why is that? Well, you can see here let's see, here it's visible. It nicely slides into the spot on the rim, and on some flimsy brake pads where this whole construction is not of very high quality, and flimsy calipers, it makes sure that your pads are not put to the counter. So opposite of getting towed in, they get sometimes warped like this, and holding them by hand while you're tightening doesn't help in some situations. And that is when I use these because they are designed to make your pads be towed in. I use them for the problematic pads to just prevent them from getting, so let's say, towed out, if you understand what I mean. So it's not a bad idea. And here I made a drawing for towing in, how it looks like if you're looking at the front of the bicycle, how the rim turns, and the brake pads are at an angle with their front section touching first. So that's what I'm talking about, and that's the whole video. I hope you found this educational and entertaining. I am, how do I say, I do expect, I would be surprised if there are not thousands of keyboard warriors who will convince me that what I'm saying is nonsense and that the earth is flat after all. It's plain to see, right? So same system with this, that's how it feels. But I would be lying if I told you otherwise, that towing in is nonsense and it has no practical effect. What I did works. And let's see if we did enough wear on these pads. No, these are still not visibly towed in, as you can probably see in the camera. In fact, if I had to bet, I would say that the rear section of the very rear section of the pad is just a fraction of a millimeter closer to the rim as they are approaching, but they are mostly parallel, and after some braking they will become completely parallel, looking for the garbage. Another thing that I want to show while we're at it, let me see. Unfortunately I don't have any affiliate links and I don't have 10% of each one sold. This is the best, absolutely best brake pad material, and they make, this company is Kool-Stop. This is their model called Salmon. It's officially for wet weather, but it works great in the dry weather, and it's the best pad that doesn't wear too fast, but is still gentle on the rims while still braking very well. And they make models for road bicycle rim brakes or for wheel brakes, and they even, I think, have some models that are not made like inserts, but of this design that has its own mounting, even though this is better because you can have a rigid construction of old metal and then just insert this once you align them, so you can just easily replace pads and not worry about realigning this again. As if you do it properly, so as they wear, they just don't go out of the rim. That's for a separate video topic, and it allows you to have a bit softer compound because it doesn't need to hold structure, it just needs to brake while the pad holder is holding the structure. So that's the whole video. I hope I didn't forget to mention anything. Thank you very much for watching, and if you have any questions, use the BikeGremlin.net forum. YouTube comment section is pretty much useless. I will maybe, if I don't forget, put a video link, maybe not. I've noticed that people don't watch videos in the video description, so apart from the technical stuff, the rest you can do as you please, but I mostly reply if you want to make sure to get an answer on my forum and BikeGremlin.net. And if you wish to support my work, you can do so via Patreon on patreon.com/BikeGremlin, and on Coffee, one-time donations also /BikeGremlin. So that's it. It's a bit hot here. It's middle of the summer. Who would think that? So thank you very much for watching. I'll see you in some other video. Cheers, stay cool, and sorry for my 3-year-old handwriting. Life is cruel sometimes.